Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Makar Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace, salutations, and blessings be unto the hopeful elect, pushing his truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the globe, in the sincere hopes of being delivered in these last days. This is the brother Yakanan from the GMS England branch. As you can see here, I have this article. This is taken from the Independent and is entitled MTG, which stands for Majorie Taylor Greene, links Trump's crypto bill to the biblical end of time as she quotes Book of Revelation. All right. Now, for those of you that's not familiar with Majorie Taylor Greene, she is, as you can see here, an American far-right politician, businesswoman, and also she's labeled a conspiracy theorist, okay, who has been the U.S. representative for Georgia's 14th Congressional District since 2021, okay, and she's also a member of the Republican Party, and this is the woman here on the right-hand side of the screen, all right, Majorie Taylor Greene. Now, a few years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, I made a similar video because she had, made a similar statement, concerning exposing, the beast system and exposing the agenda behind having, a cashless society, so on and so forth. Now, this is her latest tweet. It says, "I will not vote for this. The only way to guarantee a ban on a central bank digital currency is through law. The Genius Act does not ban CBDC or maintain people's chain of custody." And as you can see, she put, Revelation 13 and 16 to 17 in her tweet. Okay, and this has 1.1 million views. Okay, this has 1.1 million views. And again, this is a U.S. politician that's putting this information out there. Now, of course, the scriptures tell us in Psalms, the 64th chapter that, their tongue shall fall upon themselves. Okay, so we've seen many examples of this playing out, upon the earth concerning, politicians and people in positions of power, having their tongue fall upon themselves. Okay, and that, that operates in many different ways and forms, upon the earth, through their movies, through their TV series, so on and so forth. And you also have whistleblowers. You have insiders that come out and they blow the whistle. They let it be known what's happening behind the scenes. All right, so all of these things are a part, of the end. All of these things are a part of the downfall of Esau Edom's kingdom, okay? Jeremiah 49 and 10 tells us that the Lord was going to make Esau bare, and he shall not be able to hide himself, okay? All of these things are coming to light through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. Now, let's go back to this article. It says, Georgia Republican Representative Majorie Taylor Greene invoked the Bible on Wednesday to declare her opposition to a landmark cryptocurrency bill, equating the legislation's potential impact to biblical end of times. Referring to a passage of the Book of Revelation, Greene insinuated that if the bill, called the Genius Act, all right, which I've done a video, on that last week, and many other, apostles, elders, and brothers, so on and so forth, had done videos on that, okay? So it says, called the Genius Act did not explicitly ban digital currency from being issued by a central bank. It could lead to the demise of the world, okay? Now, one thing you got to understand is there's no changing the fact that the prophecy concerning Revelation 13 and 16 is going to come to pass, okay? Because the Lord has already spoken these things. These things are going to be accomplished in these last days. These are prophecies. These are already documented. These are already in fruition in the spirit. Okay, so no matter what, happens, no matter what they do, some way, somehow, the words of Yahweh Shem Yahushai are going to be accomplished. All right. Now, just to prove that, let's go to Isaiah 55, and we'll start from verse 10. And it reads, "For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth the bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it." Okay? So the words of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, these prophecies have already been set up to be accomplished in these last days. Okay? The words of Yahweh Shem Yahushai are not going to return unto him void. None of these prophecies are going to return unto Yahweh Shem Yahushai unaccomplished, voided. Okay? All of these prophecies that we preach about, that we teach about, okay, we go out on the highways and the byways through the Spirit. These things are gonna be fulfilled in these last days, and we're already seeing the signs of these last few prophecies about to be accomplished in these last days. Okay, so there's nothing that they can do to stop or upset the prophecies, man. These prophecies are going to be fulfilled, just like Esau, Edom as a nation, as a people, is going to be destroyed and removed from the power seat. Okay. All of these things are written for our learning, as it tells us in Romans 15, okay? The things that are written aforetime were written for our learning, okay? So it says here again, referring to a passage of the book of Revelation, Green insinuated that if the bill called the Genius Act did not explicitly ban digital currency from being issued by a central bank, it could lead to the demise of the world. Okay, which what we're witnessing is the demise of the kingdom of Esau, Edom. All right, that's the world that's about to go down and be destroyed. Okay, as the scriptures tell us in 2 Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9, Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So the world that's about to be kicked out is the world of Esau, Edom. All right, the kingdom of Esau, Edom. Okay, now it says here, this is her quote, taken from the Twitter that we read already. "I will not vote for this. The only way to guarantee a ban on a central bank digital currency is through law." The Georgia lawmaker then went on to cite Revelation 13:16-17, which claims each person, regardless of wealth or status, must have the mark of the beast, a metaphor for evil and often associated with 666. Which is not a metaphor for evil, all right? What it is telling you that there's going to be a time upon the earth in the very near future, all right, where you're going to be required to take an RFID chip within your body, all right? And let's get it, all right? Because, again, it's very important to understand what the MOTB actually is. Because you have a lot of false teachers out there, all right, that are not breaking down this prophecy the right way. And it's heavy because the ramifications for taking the MOTB is grave. Okay, so you got to know exactly what it is, all right, especially in these last days, so you can avoid it. All right, now this is Revelation 13:16, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads." Okay, so what is that mark? All right, that mark is not sin. All right, let's see what that mark actually is. And again, this is why it's very important, it's imperative to go into the original language, all right, that these scriptures were written in, the Hebrew, the Greek, so on and so forth. All right, so let's get Mark. All right, and we've done this many a times. All right, but we're going to keep doing it through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, until it's fulfilled in these last days.
Strong's G 5480. Charagma. Charagma.
All right, so it says a stamp, an imprinted mark of the mark stamped on the forehead or on the right hand as a badge of the followers of the Antichrist, the mark branded upon horses, and here's the point, a thing carved, sculpture or graven work, all right? So this is a thing carved. This is an incision in the flesh, okay? This represents the chip, all right? The CHIP, all right, as we say in code most of the time, all right? The CHIP or the C-hip, okay? That's going to be what's going to be inserted, within you, okay? Now let's go into the root word of charagma, which is charax.
Strong's G 5482. Charax. Charax.
Now here you go. It says a pale or stake, a palisade. Okay, so a stake. Now it says pales between which earth, stones, trees, and timbers are heaped and packed together. All right, so when you go into a pale or a stake, like when you go into gardening, fencing, so on and so forth, the fence, the pale, the stake goes into the earth. It pierces the earth. Okay, and that's exactly how this is going to be administered. Okay, with that needle, they're going to inject these RFID chips into people's body. Okay, into your arm, into your forehead. All right, Neuralink. All of these neuro, tech companies that are coming out with their own version of the MOTB, of that type of technology. This is of no coincidence that these things are happening in these last days, that kind of technology is being pushed, because it all serves the purpose of control. It all serves the purpose of, having all your information about yourself on that device so they can control you. Okay, that's what the prison planet is all about. Putting you in a digital prison, compromising you on a highest level. Okay? Because this man wants to be God upon the earth. He wants to have full control of the people. This man I'm talking about is Esau Edom, beginning with the elites. Okay? So that's that stake. Then when we even go further, all right, into that root word, it goes into, I believe it's grapho.
Strong's G 1125. Grapho. Grapho.
Right, and that it says to write with reference to the form of letters, okay? Which goes into the information that's on, the RFID chip. All the information about you, about your person. Your name, your age, your bank account DLs, okay? Your medical history, all right? Where you work, where you live, everything about you is going to be contained on that chip. All the information is going to be on there, man. Okay? All the apps that you have on your phone, that can be on the chip. Okay? Waving your hand, to pay for things, so on and so forth. This is the future of Esau Edom's kingdom, all right? This is going to happen within our lifetime, man. This is going to happen in our lifetime. So it says, the Georgia lawmaker then went on to cite Revelation 13:16-17, which claims each person, regardless of wealth or status, must have the mark of the beast, a metaphor for evil and often associated with 666, in order to participate in buying or selling. It is part of the biblical story of Armageddon. So again, is not a metaphor, for evil. We've just proven what the mark actually is. It's the RFID chip, and you're not going to be able to buy and sell without that chip. All right, simple as that. You're not going to be able to operate and function on Esau's grid without that technology within you. Okay? It says the Genius Bill, which stands for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act, seeks to create a regulatory framework for stablecoins, a form of cryptocurrency that is considered less volatile than typical cryptocurrency. If passed, it would be the first major piece of legislation to create regulations around stablecoin, which have become popular digital currencies. Stablecoins function like digital tokens and are pegged to more stable assets such as the US dollar. All right. So this is what they're looking to do. All right. They're looking to completely commercialize and completely legitimize, digital currency. And it's going to be on your CHIP. All right. And it's going to be programmable, which goes into a term called, Giselle currency. All right, look up Giselle currency. I've done a video on that some years ago. All right, because you had a man by the name of Silvio Giselle, and he had the idea, if I'm not mistaken, in regards to having programmable money. So you can control the people. So you would have programmable money for food. You would have food. Programmed money that you can only spend on food. Then you'll have, a section of money that you can only spend on your bills. You'd have money that you can only spend on, taking flights or public transport, so on and so forth. Everything will be, dedicated to particular sections of currency, which gives them more control. And then money would also have an expiry date. All right, so you couldn't save money. Okay, you can only have money, for example, you might have a situation where you get paid $2,000 or £2,000. Okay, now that $2,000 or pounds would have an expiry date, and you have to use it by a certain time. And if you don't, it will simply disappear. That's the kind of, power that Esau Eden wants out here. And even the Bank of England spoke about how they wanted to actually do that. Because that means that it keeps money constantly flowing through the system. And you wouldn't have hordes of money, just sitting in people's bank accounts, because they don't want that. They want money to be fluid. They want it always to be going from one place to another. They don't want you to have savings. Hence the term, you will own nothing and you will be happy. All right? Again, this is no coincidence, man. This is what they're aiming for in these last days, and it's going to come into fruition, all right? So I'm going to cut it off there, Lord willing. This lesson has been edifying, all right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai Bashim, Kodash. And until next time, I'll say Shalom.